I was starting to feel pretty old there just a few minutes ago with Frank talking about blockchain. I'm going to talk about copper. Copper is energy. You can't produce energy, transmit energy, or use energy without copper every step of the way. Climate change, whether you believe it or not, the governments do, and they are mandating a switch from coal to alternative energies. That takes 5 to 10 times more copper. So I'm all about global climate change. Electric cars, whether you think oil's going up in the next short while or not, doesn't matter. Electric cars are the future. There's no question about that. GM just announced today they're going all electric. That's the largest automobile producer in the world. Tesla's got a bigger market cap, but they produce a lot more cars, and what we want is those cars require a lot more copper. Everything green requires more copper. Everything high tech, blockchain, you need energy, you need cheap energy. That requires copper. So we're happy with all that. Let's look at the supply side. Frankly, the supply side sucks. Average grade has gone from 1% in an open pit mine 10 years ago to less than half a percent now. That's a big change in 10 years. And that's not something you change. The only way to produce more copper is to increase your mine throughput, your mill throughput. That requires an incentive price of copper somewhere in the neighborhood of $3.50. It's trading right around $3 today. Nationalization, Freeport's going to lose their mine. The only question is how much are they going to get paid for it. And it's not just in Indonesia, it's around the world. Exploration expenditures, the last go around, about $5 billion was invested and not a whole lot was found. And that's because most of the good stuff's already been found, the stuff at the surface. We're going to be exploring deeper, we're going to be exploring in more remote locations. That's exactly what we're doing in Alaska. But that is going to take time. So to replace this copper is not going to happen quickly. It's a perfect storm. For you investors, you want to buy low and sell high. Man, screwed that up. And this is the perfect time to be getting into the copper space. It's on a 6-year, 7-year downtrend, bottomed out at $2, and it just moved up last year. Somewhat coincidentally with the Trump election. I think that was just coincidental, but I'm sure Mr. Trump will take full credit. But it is a great time to get in the space. Why Trilogy? Well, we have a hell of a lot of copper. We have 8 billion pounds of copper, 3 billion pounds of zinc, 1 million ounces of gold, the equivalent gold plus silver. We're developing 2 projects. One's at pre-feasibility, Arctic. The other's a fantastic exploration project that the South 32 investment is really geared towards looking at. We're in Alaska. It's a rule of law country. We're partnered with an Alaskan Native Corporation. I'll explain why that's important. It's a district. I'm not just developing a couple of little deposits here. We have a Native Corporation partner in Nana. They've been in the mining business for over 30 years with the largest zinc mine in the world at Red Dog. They just announced that they have found 2 more Red Dogs, the size of the new resource there. So they'll be in business for 50 years there, 50 more years. We have an infrastructure partnership with the state of Alaska to build out the road connecting the Ambler mining district to the rest of the infrastructure in Alaska, year-round port. That's important because, as Tommy said, I worked on this project in the 1970s, late 1970s. And the reason it wasn't developed because there's no road. Well, today we have a road that is in the process of being permitted, and with our new administration in the United States, it's going to get permitted quickly. Not like Obama when it was going to take forever and the answer was going to be no. These are our directives that are coming out of the Department of Interior. That's the agency that owns all the federal land in Alaska that's not owned by the Department of Defense. And it says it's going to get done in a year, and it's going to get done in a manner that you can read it. EIS is anymore about 10,000 pages, and nobody even bothers to read them anymore. What the Trump administration and what Ryan Zinke in charge of the Interior Department wants that to be done now and done quickly. We have a financial partnership that Tommy mentioned with South 32. It's a great deal. They're investing. It's an option agreement. It's a 3-year option, $10 million a year that we get to spend on exploration to see how big Bornite gets. And then when they exercise the option, they write us a check for $150 million, which is more than enough money to get both Arctic and Bornite all the way through feasibility into permitting and beyond. Just quickly on our share structure, I have 105 million shares outstanding. We got plenty of cash in the bank, and we have some of the savviest investors in the mining space as our major shareholders that, along with management, control about 60% of the company. So we're all in on this. Our performance, stock pumped up on the South 32 announcement, and then with the sort of the renewed interest in the copper space, we've had a couple of funds buying, and we're just at the beginning of that upside curve with the investments in the copper space and the lack of really quality good supply, and that's what we bring. So we're in Alaska. We're the northwest part of Alaska. I mentioned NANA. It's a regional native corporation there. They own the Red Dog deposit. That deposit has been in operation for 30 years. It's provided great paying jobs to their shareholders. It's provided the school district funds to have one of the best school districts in the state of Alaska. And it's supplied the money to run a borough government that provides all sorts of local services. So this part of Alaska understands mining and understands that mining has been really, really good to it. This is our joint area of interest with NANA. It basically encompasses the entire Ambler mining district. That skinny belt of rocks there is a polymetallic VMS belt, so it's copper, lead, zinc, gold, and silver. Arctic is right smack in the middle of it. That's the first deposit we'll talk about. And then I'll mention our exploration work at Bornite and what we're doing there. Here's Arctic. It sits on the side of a hill, on the side of a mountain. The ore body's about 100 meters below the surface. And what's fantastic about this, this will be the highest grade open pit copper mine in the world, period. You can see the grades there. Those are underground mineable grades. This will be an open pit. Very simple mine project. We did a PEA, demonstrated great economics, over $500 million NPV, using consistent long-term metal prices. You're producing way above your weight class here, 125 million pounds of copper a year, plus 150 million pounds of zinc, the precious metals. You're doing that at an incredibly low cash cost for a pound of copper. You're generating over $200 million of free cash flow after you've paid for your initial capital, your sustainable capital, your TCRCs, royalties, etc. Incredible amount of cash flow on a relatively modest-sized project, and because of that, it's relatively low capital cost. About half of what the industry average is right now. It costs about $15,000 per ton to produce a ton of copper on an annual basis for the industry from a capital perspective. We're about half that at $7,000 a ton. So great economics. We are completing the pre-feasibility study. That'll be done first quarter of 2018, and then we'll start to permit the project itself. Second project I want to talk to you about is Bornite, located just about 20 miles to the southwest of Arctic. So good, consistent local synergies between the two projects. We first explored this back when we signed the agreement with NANA in 2011. We outlined 125 million tons of 1% in an open pit. 1% is twice the average grade being mined in the world today in open pits. The second year we outlined an underground resource of about 3 billion pounds of copper, almost 58 million tons at almost 3%. Very, very good grade. In 2013, we drilled a number of holes off to the east, down dip of the currents, and had some great results, but in 2013 nobody cared about copper. So we stopped drilling and we decided we're going to go find a partner, and that's what we did with South 32. So now we're spending their $10 million exploring that zone down dip of the open pit that we had found a few years earlier. We announced some more recent results. We got another round coming in another week or two. We're continuing to see that broad thick zones of good grade copper averaging 1%. Again, it's twice the grade of what's being mined in the world today. So we're going to make this thing very, very large. And that's what, of course, has attracted South 32. You can see the step outs here. The first round of drilling was a 250-meter step out. The next round was 300, and then the final was at 400 meters. We'll be releasing results over the next several weeks. And you can keep up with how large this is going to get. This is a grade thickness map. It really just shows kind of grade intensity. You can see where the open pit was there that we originally defined, the 6 billion pounds of copper. We're expanding that to the north and east. And we're also recognizing this strong structural control that we had not recognized previously to the northwest and southeast. And so we'll be following up on that with next year's program. When you look out at the world and you see what is the possible copper projects, what are the possible copper projects that can come online, this is why I said our industry is in pretty bad shape here. There's not a lot of quality stuff in the supply chain. Everything on that map is, everything on that chart has been on that chart for 10, 20, and 30 years. It's crap. And it needs either an incredibly high copper price to get into production, or you can just invest in Trilogy Metals and have a quality project in a safe jurisdiction with a native corporation as a partner, a supportive state government, and finally a supportive federal government in the United States. Come by our booth, we'd love to talk to you and fill you in on what our plans are for next year. Thanks.